So good to see you again, dear Venerable.
Hello, Meng. How are you?
Same old, same old. Everything changes every day.
Oh,
Okay, I'll start the show. My friends, welcome to episode 15 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Meng, co-founder of Buddhism-dot.net and your host. We are truly honored today to have everybody's beloved teacher, Venerable Thubten Chodron, back on our show. Venerable Chodron is the founder and abbess of Sarvasti Abbey. She's one of the most revered Western teachers in the world. She also co-authored all 10 volumes of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But more important than all that, imagine a master whose mere presence is so inspiring that just spending a week with her is enough to make you decide to become a monastic. And Venerable Chodron is somebody who has that effect on people. So today, Venerable will continue our series on the transformative power of compassion. My friends, given what I just told you about Venerable Chodron, I can say with full confidence that there's nobody in the world today more qualified to talk about compassion than the Dalai Lama. but he's not here.
that's it. Yep.
Instead, we have the next best person, which is Venerable Chodron. So we are very lucky. Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. And as a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded onto YouTube later. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn on your camera so that Venerable can see your lovely faces.
Yes.
With that, Venerable, can we invite you to start with an opening prayer and maybe lead a meditation if you want to?
Okay, thank you. I don't know who he's talking about in that introduction, except the Dalai Lama. And I'm a poor replacement, but you got to deal with what you have. So, okay, so we'll take refuge and generate bodhicitta, and then recite the 4 immeasurables, and cultivate our motivation, and then go into the talk.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Okay, so with that, let's have a motivation of compassion and the wish to learn about compassion for all beings and live our life with compassion, and then to use that compassion to really motivate us along the path so that in the long term
as we generate all the realizations of the path, we will become fully awakened Buddhas, and with great compassion, be able to really be of a lot of benefit to sentient beings. So may that be our motivation for sharing this time together, and for our whole lives, actually.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
It's only half an hour to talk, so I've got to squeeze a lot in. A little bit about what compassion is and also what it isn't. Okay, so compassion, from a Buddhist perspective, the meaning is quite simple. Yeah, it's the wish for living beings of all types to be free of all kinds of unsatisfactory experiences and suffering. Okay? It's coupled together with love, which is the wish for all these living beings to have happiness in its causes. So compassion wishes them to be free of misery and its causes, love to have happiness in its causes. Okay. Now, that's definition, yeah. Sounds short, sweet, just be a nice person. It is a little bit more than that, okay? But first I want to talk about what compassion isn't, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. Especially, I think, people who grew up in the West, where we often think that if you're compassionate, you have to be suffering. Yeah. And that people will even give the etymology of the word compassion as suffering with, although, meaning that in order to have compassion, you suffer together with the other person. That is not the Buddhist meaning, okay? If you're suffering, it's going to be, and paying attention to your suffering and making yourself suffer together with somebody, thinking that that's compassion. You're not going to be able to benefit anybody, including yourself, because you're going to just be stuck in your old trip going round and around about how the world doesn't treat me well, okay? So compassion doesn't mean that, yeah? Also, people who grew up in a Christian background think that, in accordance with that, to have compassion, you have to suffer. What's the vision of compassion? Jesus on the cross. Is that a pretty picture, something that you want to aspire for? Yeah? So that is not, the Buddhist meaning, yeah? So compassion doesn't mean, I have so much compassion for you that I'm going to fix all your problems. I'm going to meddle with your life, give you advice that you don't want, nag you until you do that, and then you will finally realize that my compassion is, my advice is fantastic, you'll follow it exactly, and all your problems will be eliminated thanks to me, the great compassionate one who gave you so much advice that was unasked for. No, that's not compassion. Okay, that's meddling. Yeah, that's meddling in other people's lives. Yeah. So along with that, being compassionate doesn't mean that you become Mr. or Ms. Fix-It. Yeah. So not just meddling by giving advice, but jumping in and fixing other people's problems. Okay? It doesn't mean that either, because how do you know how to fix other people's problems? We can't even fix our own problems. Yeah. I know it's much easier to see how other people can improve themselves and live their life better. It's much easier to see that than to see how we can improve ourselves and live our life better. But this is what we have to do. Okay? And also with compassion, it doesn't mean that we should, that everybody is going to love us because we're so kind and compassionate. Yeah. Because when you're compassionate, you think long term. What is the best thing for this person long term? Yeah. Not what are they asking for me to give them now, but what really is the best for them long term. Because those two things may be very different. You know, you have a relative who has a substance abuse problem and they come and ask you for money. Yeah, is it compassionate to give them money? And they go out and buy drugs and, you know, they're calmed down for another 12 hours and then that's it. You know, that's not compassionate, that's feeding their addiction. It's much more compassionate to say, no, I won't give you money for that, but I will take you to a rehab center and I'll get you involved in a program. Because that long term is going to be of much more benefit than giving them a little bit of money now. Yeah. Even of more long-term benefit is for people who are Dharma practitioners. When we show them compassion, we're thinking of what is best for them also in future lives. Yeah, kind of what do they need to purify? What kind of merit do they need to create? Because we're thinking beyond this lifetime. Yeah. And so sometimes when you have a long-term view and the other person wants something immediately, they're not going to be happy with you when you say no and don't give it to them. Yeah. And some people may be really mad at you. Yeah. I mean, really mad and not talk to you. But the thing is, if we're really looking out for somebody's benefit in the long term, we're willing to take that risk. In other words, we're not looking in being compassionate to have a lot of praise, for people to give us gifts afterwards, for people to tell us, other people, how wonderful we are. No, we're looking of what is the best thing to do for this person in the long term. Yeah. And sometimes when you do that, people are very unhappy with you. I think most of those of you who are parents, you know that from your own experience. Yeah, when your child comes and pulls at you, I want candy, give me candy. And you say no, because it's not healthy for them, it's not what they need, and so on. Your kid might be really mad. No, Stevie's parents give him candy, why don't you give me any? You're mean. Yeah. But as a parent, you know that your child needs to learn how to do without getting everything they want. Yeah. And they need to learn something about good eating habits. And so they may be mad at you, but you're looking out for their long-term benefit. So that's not saying that people being mad at you is proof of being compassionate. Yeah, there's no pervasion that way. Yeah. But I'm just saying that when you really care about others, you're really caring long-term for them. Okay. So in this wish to help living beings, sentient beings, to be free of suffering and to have happiness, there's different things that people need. And so having compassion necessitates developing some sensitivity to what somebody needs at any particular time, because they may think they need something and that may not be what they need, okay? And to really have that sensitivity so that, your care for somebody, it's quite individual. It's not just one thing for everybody, yeah? So, at the beginning, what somebody needs is they need safety and they need food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. So what they need to stay alive, yeah? So I think Maslow made a series of needs, which I learned many years ago in college, and I can't remember, but I know this one was on it, probably the first one, okay? So for some people, we need to give them that. For some people, they need a friend. We need to be a friend, yeah? For other people, they just need somebody giving some encouragement, so we give that. For other people, they may need a longer, talk, and they need to really, kind of unburden themselves. Yeah. Other people may be sick and they need people to drive them to the doctor or, take care of them, when they're lying in bed, when they're sick, when they're dying. So we have to really see what it is that people need. And then with a kind motivation, reach out and do what we can. Yeah. So we are limited beings. We cannot fulfill everything everybody wants. Yeah. So we shouldn't put that on ourselves, saying, okay, now I'm compassionate. I only have 2 arms. The Bodhisattva of compassion, Chenrezig, has 1,000. I'm 998 short. Oh, what can I do? You can do a lot, But we shouldn't expect ourselves to be what they say, wish-fulfilling gems, who can solve everybody's problems and make everybody happy. Yeah. So we do what we can, and in our spiritual practice, in our Dharma practice, we do the meditations to help us develop compassion, and then we act out as much as we can. Some people, they have food and so on, they need an education. We help them get an education. Some people really need to learn the Dharma. Yeah, so we share teachings. Some people, they need to purify. Yeah, they've come and they're so upset because they did something and they have so much regret. So we have to teach them how to purify and how to forgive themselves. So it's really a thing to act out of compassion, of having this sensitivity to see what others need, and then having the ability to, as much as we can, fulfill that, okay? But compassion isn't just what we do and what we say. It has to start in the mind, okay? So it has to start with wishing people well. Yeah. So that sounds nice. Everybody writes it in their Christmas cards or their Vesak cards, yeah. But do we really wish everybody well? Really? Yeah. Yeah. Think of the government, at least in my country, Think of what's happening to the migrants in the US and people being arrested, evicted from the country, sent to countries where they don't know anybody, where they don't know the language, they don't have money or anything. It's quite easy when you care about people like that, then to get very angry at people who cause them suffering. Or you look at what's happening in Gaza, and there's a shortage of food, and it's starvation level for some people. And it's very easy to get mad and take one side against the other. The kind of compassion that we're trying to generate in Buddhism is based on equanimity. That's another one of the 4 immeasurables that we will come to, later on in the series. But equanimity is really being able, when we see any living being, I don't care, human being, gopher, bumblebee, bull moose. We had a bull moose coming in the Abbey yesterday. Big one with bracts, And, to really be able to look inside the heart of every living being and see that they're exactly like us, in terms of what everybody's deepest wish and longing for is to be happy and to be free of suffering. That is universal, that wish. We have it from the moment we're conceived. We want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. And every other living being has that same wish. And it's just as intense in everybody else as it is in us. So what this means is to really work at shifting our mind to be able to look into everybody's heart and see this, and to care about them, and to see how we're exactly the same. So this also entails that we aren't attached to some people and favor them, and we aren't having anger and adversity towards another group and want them to get hit by a truck. But we really care about everybody. Even the people who perpetrate the harm. So that's not so easy, because, when we see people who do and say what we like, yes, it's so easy to have love and compassion for them and do things for them. When we're with people who, threaten us, or take our stuff, or criticize us in front of everybody, or even privately, then we don't want to benefit that person, And sometimes we even hold a grudge, and we want to, give them pain, saying may they have a taste of their own medicine. We want revenge. Well, that kind of attitude is totally antithetical to compassion. We can't want somebody to be suffering and its causes if we're mad at them and we want them to have suffering and its causes. So it's really important to deal with our anger if we want to create compassion. So those 2 things go hand in hand. We do them together in our spiritual practice. Some meditations, we think about other living beings' kindness to us, what they've done for us, and then we have a good feeling towards them when we see they want to be happy and not suffer. And in other meditations, we think about their suffering and how, when they suffer, that is what makes them do what we don't like. Yeah. And so instead of being mad at people, to see when they're acting in harmful ways, it's because they're unhappy. They're miserable. Something's going on with them. And so instead of generating anger and be repelled by those people, yeah, we think, oh, I know what that's like to be unhappy. I think we all do. Yeah. And I know when I'm unhappy, I do things that I regret. Well, that's what's going on with this person. So instead of being angry, instead of hating them, yeah, denouncing them, holding a grudge and harming them, yeah, we have an attitude of kindness towards them, an attitude of compassion that is based on that awareness of how they want to be happy and not suffer just like us. Yeah. So developing this really takes time in our practice. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I aspire to be compassionate and tomorrow I wake up and I'm wonderfully compassionate. It's really something that we consciously cultivate in our spiritual practice. We don't just sit there and pray, Buddha, 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 you have lots of compassion, give me some. That's not how it works, okay? We need to do the practice, but when we do the practice, it works. Yeah. When we don't do the practice, well, we don't get the result. Yeah. But if we spend time meditating in this way, yeah, you can really see a change in your mind. Yeah. It's not like all of a sudden you love everybody. But what you find is, oh, that person that you used to get so mad at, you don't get so irritated now. Yeah. And then as you keep practicing in your meditation, and you think, oh, well, why did they do that I found so repellent? Well, they must have been quite unhappy and disturbed themselves. How do you know that? Because happy people do not go about causing harm. Yeah. I mean, just look at it yourself. When you're in a good mood, yeah, are you nice to people? Yeah, you don't even have to try and be nice when you're in a good mood. When you're in a bad mood, are you nice to people? Yeah, no, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Why are you looking at me cross-eyed? Who do you think you are? We're miserable. Okay, so that it's the same with other people. Yeah, if they're acting in a really harmful way, it's because they're unhappy and they're so confused that they don't know what the causes of happiness are. And so in their attempt to be happy, they harm others. Yeah, so somebody wants to have a lot of power. They think, oh, not many people like me. I don't feel so secure. But if I'm powerful, then people will listen to me. Then people will know how wonderful I am. So if you look, somebody doesn't have much self-confidence. And they think that by having power over other people and controlling other people, that will make them feel like they're a good human being. So then they do that, and in the process of doing that, they harm others. Okay? So when you see, oh, it's not that somebody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to cause other people misery. I don't think people wake up like that. I think it's more, oh, I'm in such a bad mood. People don't understand me. They don't respect me. I feel left out. I don't belong. They look down on me. oh, what can I do to, make myself feel better about myself? Oh, well, if other people think I'm wonderful, then I must be. So I'm going to go out and have some power over other people, and then they will think I'm great, and then I'll feel good. Yeah, well, these people who think like that, they need compassion. Yeah, they're objects of compassion. They're not objects of hatred. They're objects of compassion. Yeah, and so to really train ourselves when we see people who are hurting, to think, they're unhappy right now. May they have happiness. And then you think, oh, if this person were happy, they would be acting totally different than the way they're acting right now, which I don't like, which I think is harmful. But if they were happy, they would be pleasant, they would, be really cooperative. So I have compassion. I want to alleviate their suffering. Whatever I can do, I can't fix everybody's problems, but I can do what I can, and also do what I can to bring them happiness, and in a Dharma way. But again, you have to tailor this for the person. That often involves giving them teachings, and sometimes it even involves calling them out for their bad behavior, because sometimes people get stuck in bad behavior, or people don't even realize that other people don't like that behavior, and they think it's okay, and then they're puzzled why other people get mad at them. So sometimes, you have to say something to somebody about their behavior. But you do it, because you want them to learn, and by learning and improving, then they will get along better with others. They will create more virtuous karma. They'll be happier. They won't harm. Other people will be happier. Yeah. So I squeezed all that in a half an hour.
Good job, Venerable. You did it again.
Okay. So now you can ask questions.
Okay. Thank you, Venerable. So friends, we've entered the discussion section, and if you have any questions for the Venerable, or if you just want to share a reflection with the Venerable, use the hand-raising function in Zoom, and then I invite you to unmute yourself. And while we're waiting, Venerable, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So there's something that blew my mind about compassion, and I was fairly young back then, and I read about Matthew Ricard in the fMRI chamber. And when he was meditating on compassion, his brain registered like the happiest brain state like ever recorded in the history of neuroscience. So it wasn't just that compassion was not suffering. It's like the happiest you can ever be is to be in a state of compassion.
Yes.
So my question for you, Venerable, is first, does that align with your personal experience? And secondly, if the answer was yes, then for you, was it always compassionate? Was it always joyful, or was it difficult at the beginning and then joyful later as your practice progressed? So those are my questions.
I haven't really thought about that. Yeah, if I'm joyful first or joyful. Usually, if somebody is doing something that I don't like, when I am able to see their suffering and generate compassion, then my mind is in a much better state. I wouldn't say I'm joyful, bubbling with excitement, but my mind is peaceful. And that is a nice mental state compared to being irritated, frustrated, upset. Yeah. So I think compassion brings peace in my mind. Okay, it brings and it brings meaning. Yeah. His Holiness Dalai Lama, he says that because a lot of people, when they're compassionate, they expect something in return. Like, oh, I was compassionate, I did something for you. You should praise me, you should give me a present, you should tell other people how wonderful I am. And His Holiness says, that isn't the quote, quote, reward for being compassionate. He said, when you're compassionate, your being compassionate itself is the reward. In other words, just the action of being kind and compassionate makes you feel good because you see that that what you're doing is having a beneficial effect on somebody else's life. And that makes you feel good. Yeah. And it gives you some confidence. So he said, getting something in return isn't the point. It's, it's your mental state and your giving of compassion that is, the reward, the payback, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And that's something you just experience yourself through the act of giving.
So compassion is its own reward. And then the peace and then the joy is a secondary reward on top of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, I like rewards. And with that, Vanessa, can I have you unmute yourself?
Thank you for your very insightful talk on compassion. I have one question, and my question would be, do you think that we lack love and compassion when we're mainly running on ego? Thank you.
Ego can trick us into thinking we have love and compassion. But that love and compassion is usually conditional. I have love and compassion as long as you're nice to me. Yeah, when you're nice to me, you praise me, you give me presents, you speak well about me to others, you help my career. That's ego compassion. Yeah, and that compassion expects something in return. I was kind to you, come on, pay back. And here is an analogy that Shantideva, the 8th century Indian sage, gave. He gives the example of when you're walking and your foot steps on a thorn. Okay, you go, it hurts. What do? You sit down and your hand bends, you lean over and you pull the thorn out of your foot, and that's it. Then you keep on going where you were going. Yeah. So the hand doesn't say, oh, foot, I've given you so much advice about how to walk, and look where you're walking, and you dumb idiot, stepped on a thorn again. And me, the great and glorious, kind hand, I'm going to self-sacrifice and pull that thorn out from you. And now you owe me something, so don't forget it. Okay? That's not compassion, that's ego. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Brad, can you unmute yourself?
Venerable Chodron, you mentioned earlier having a compassionate equanimity between two opposing groups. You mentioned Gaza, and where I have compassion for one group, and then there's another group that I feel is causing suffering, that they're not being compassionate to another group. I struggle in having compassion because I want to change there's a part of me to alleviate the suffering, having compassion for the group that is in pain. My compassion wants to alleviate their suffering. So I want the behaviors of the other group to change so that this other doesn't suffer. And I guess if you could reflect on that, but what I'm hearing is that compassion has nothing to do with changing behaviors whatsoever. Compassion is almost a reflection back on ourselves and alleviating our own suffering for these ill feelings that we have towards another group, because it struggle then with having compassion for the group that is causing the suffering, because of my compassion for the ones who are experiencing the suffering.
Okay, so compassion does, in certain circumstances where a change in behavior is harming the people who are doing some kind of aggressive act, you do want a change of behavior. Of course, we cannot control other people. We cannot make them change, okay? And that can be frustrating because we know exactly what they need to do and they aren't doing it. Yeah, if only the world would listen to me and my wonderful advice, we wouldn't have any problems. And the world's so messed up that they don't listen to me. Oh, okay, that's another instance of ego compassion, or maybe just plain ego. Yeah, but the thing, we like to make things very simple. These people are aggressors. These people are victims. These people are hurting because they're victims. These people are aggressors. They're mean, they're nasty, okay? It seems so simple, so black and white, yeah. But when you really delve into something like this, there's a whole lot going on, and it's really not so simple. In the case of the Middle East, it's, if you understand the history of Israel, if you understand more about the Holocaust, if you understand the prejudice and the persecution the Jews suffered in Eastern Europe and in other places, yeah, then why they are doing it makes more sense to you. That does not mean you agree with what they're doing, but you can understand, here's a people who have been persecuted, who have been killed, who have, and they finally have their own country, and now they are scared to death. Yeah? What you see is, they're sending bombers over there. Why do people send bombs? Because they're afraid. Yeah? So why are they afraid? What's going on? What's their history? What's their way of thinking? Yeah? So I've been there, and it's just, if I can give a personal comment, I would say almost everybody in that country has PTSD of some sort. Some mild, some very strong. Yeah. And they're reacting out of that. Yeah. I too don't like what's going on in Gaza and the starvation, the bombing, the number of people who've been getting killed. It's atrocious. I do not agree with, the Israeli policy. Yeah. But I can look at the Gazans and have compassion. I can look at the Israelis and also have compassion. And I can look at, we also have to talk about Hamas, because Hamas is an active player in this whole thing. Yeah? And, who started this immediate thing? It was started by Hamas. Of course, the conflicts has been decades and centuries old, yeah, but they started it, and Hamas also uses their own Palestinian people as human shields. Yeah, is that a nice thing to do to your own people? Is that helping it? So when you really delve into the situation, and there's so much more to it, I can't say, I mean, I'm only talking for 3 or 5 minutes about this, and there's centuries of history. But when you understand that, then, you know, you can see, oh, I need to have compassion for both sides. Yeah. I would like Israel, especially the government, to change what they're doing. You know, I think that's very important. I would also like Hamas to change what they're doing. Yeah. So then, you know, how do I keep my own mind calm without taking sides, without getting angry? What can I contribute to the situation that might help it? You know, personally speaking, I would love to give some money for food in Gaza, but who do you give it to when there's no food going in? Yeah. So it's, you know, you keep everybody in your heart and wish both sides, the people on both sides, to be free of hatred and aggression, and, you know, to see the humanity of the other side. But it's not something that's going to have a quick and easy resolution. Yeah, but we can still be compassionate for everybody involved, and we can do what we are able to do. Yeah, I have friends in Israel. Yeah, some of them have left because they don't agree with Netanyahu's policy. So those people I can talk to more honestly about what I feel. But I can't, you know, you can't go in and change, push some switches and make other people change. Yeah, but we can be kind to other people. Yeah. So we may not be able to directly help the situation there, but at least we can not contribute to hatred in the world, you know, and at least we can be kind to the people who are nearer to us, who we can actually reach and, let's say, give food to. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Andy. Andy, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, Venerable. Thank you for your sharing. I hear you, and this reflecting back to what you shared earlier on about the kids asking for these candies. Is that when the kids is very young, it's very easy to tell them no candy is bad for you. However, okay, in my present situation, I have 2 teenagers, and I remember you saying not to meddle with what there's with other people. I already personally have a lot of problems currently with my health issues, etc. However, facing this teenager in the very rebellious time, it just happened over this current 1 year together with my own issue, and I see my children very engrossed in the on their games, on the computer games, neglecting their studies, etc. And they are not tidying up their rooms. All this. How do I show compassion to my kids, but yet not meddling in their life?
Okay, so I get it. You want to be a good dad.
Yes.
You want to be a good father. You want to help your kids to grow up to be good citizens, to be kind people and happy adults, right? And then you're asking me like how for suggestions about how to do that. Yeah. So it's raising children is, I think it's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Yeah. And you don't need a license, you don't have to take any courses, nothing. But it's really a hard job because you're bringing up this little being and helping to mold them. And that little being is coming into this world with their own karma, their own habits, their own personality, and then the environment is affecting them, and you want to really help them grow up, and it's hard. It's hard. So I think, one thing that's very important for kids is to know that they're loved. So even when they misbehave, like you mentioned, they're involved in their computer games and maybe they're neglecting their homework or whatever, and you want to say, hey, cut it out, you got to study for your exams and be a good student and so on. But actually, you're doing that as a parent because that's what you think they need, so that they'll have a good career, they'll make a lot of money, they'll have financial security when they're an adult. But actually, I think what's even more important in bringing up children is that they feel loved and they feel cared for, and that they've received kindness, so they want to give kindness. Yeah, I think that is, if they can grow up to be that kind of person, they're going to do very well in life, and it doesn't matter how much money they make. Yeah. So how do you let your child know that you care about them? And at the same time, like if they're not behaving properly, and you have to do something, you can't just let them, continue. I was staying with one family once, and I saw such a good example of this. There was a little boy, I don't know, he must have been about 3 years old, and I don't know what he was doing, but I was working in one room, and I heard in another room, the little boy's crying, and it was the kind of cry you do when, you're getting disciplined. Yeah, the kids have a special cry when they're disciplined. So he was crying and shrieking, and his dad picked him up, and then the dad had just disciplined him, and that's why the kid was screaming. But the dad picked him up and was holding him, and the dad came with the child and walked through the room where I was. And I went, wow, he had to discipline the child, but what's the next thing he did? He picked the child up and showed that he cared about him, that he loved him. And I thought, wow, that really speaks a lot. Yeah. So you have to discipline your kids, but to show love at the same time. Yeah. When I was disciplined as a child, I usually was shown anger. Yeah. And I think that's the common way. A parent is frustrated, they're angry, why don't you do this? Just stop. But then the child doesn't feel understood. And they may do what you say, but they do it out of fear, not because they understand. Yeah. But when you have to discipline, you explain why, you explain the disadvantages of one thing, and what kind of behavior you think is better. but then you show the child that you love them too. And then, as they change their behavior, you comment on it, yeah? So, and also a couple of things. When your kids are naughty, you don't say, bad boy, bad girl. That doesn't give them any useful information. Yeah, you're a bad kid. What does that mean? It means mom and dad don't like something, but they don't even tell you. They just say you're bad. Don't criticize them. Yeah, just say, okay, when you leave all your toys all over the place because you're busy, playing computer games and you don't clean up after yourself, then when I'm walking from one room to the next room, I sometimes trip over the toys and I step on the toys. Could you help me and pick up your toys? And maybe that, I know you like playing computer games, but that might mean that you have to play computer games less, so you have the time to clean up, but it will really help our family. So you say that, yeah. Then, if the child starts, cleaning up their things, you say, oh, thank you so much. And you don't say, oh, good kid. Again, that doesn't give them any information. You say, oh, thank you. You cleaned up the things that were in the hallway. Now I can walk in the hallway without stepping on things. Thank you very much. So you tell them exactly, what they did that you really appreciate. Yeah. And you might have to tell them what they're doing that you don't like and why you don't like it. Yeah. But you're not criticizing them as a person. You're showing that you really care about them. And that's why you're saying it.
His kids are teenagers.
What?
His kids are teenagers.
Yeah, that goes for teenagers too. Yeah, you're not going to pick up a teenager and carry them into the other room. But, you can go out and do something together with your teenager. Yeah, you keep up the contact. You don't just discipline them and walk away because you're fed up. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But you say, you know what the child needs to do, what they like to do, and you join them in doing that. Doesn't matter the age. They can be adults. Yeah? Does that make some sense, Andy?
Thank you, Venerable.
Okay.
Thank you, Venerable. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. So, Venerable, can you lead us in a closing dedication and bless all of us?
I'll give you a closing dedication. I can't bless anybody. You bless yourself.
Okay, bless me. I'm kidding.
When you generate compassion, you bless yourself. Okay? So, let's rejoice. And what we did, we just used the last hour in a meaningful way, to talk about something that will affect our life. And when it affects our life, then it will naturally affect the lives of our family, our workplace, everybody else. Okay, so let's rejoice that we were able to do that. Not just our own merit, our own goodness that we created, but everybody online who's doing this. Yeah, and whatever goodness there is in the world, whatever kindness there is in the world, let's rejoice and dedicate all that merit. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. Friends, that's all about to our teacher. Thank you, beloved teacher. You're the best.
Thank you. Oh, now my ego is going crazy. Okay.
Friends, this
Thank
recording.
you very much.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the show. Thank you, friends. Friends, as a reminder, this recording will be uploaded on the YouTube, onto our Buddhism-dot-net channel. So share and subscribe with all your friends. Those watching on YouTube, please feel free to share your reflections in the comment section. And if you're inspired to practice dana or generosity towards Venerable Chodron, please donate directly to Sarvasti Abbey, and we'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. Next week, we will have Venerable Thubten Gyatso to close our series on compassion. I know him. I can tell you with full confidence that he's awesome despite being a man. I'm kidding. And my friends, we'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Well, you got a great compliment.